One of my favorite parts of Attack on Titan is actually how Eren Yeager's character is actually portrayed as the series goes on. A lot of shonen series, they don't let their main characters show weakness, so their characters crying, vulnerability, because usually what they want their readers or anime watchers to feel is just like, oh, their main character's a badass, they fight through their problems. Eren very much breaks down and cries, and this is something that has been kind of debated among manga as well as anime fans for Attack on Titan is, oh, Eren's just crying for no reason, but Eren over the past, like, Attack on Titan, for what we've seen in the anime, it hasn't been that long. Season 2 was like 2 days in their world, Season 1 was like a couple years back. Like, Eren's had so much shit that's happened to him just over a couple of years, and everything that he's known, everything's just shattering before him. He lost his mother, everything about his world just came crumbling down, he thinks his father's a mass murderer, and ultimately, yeah, he wants to die at this point. It's kind of believable, and he isn't an adult. He's still just a teenager at the end of the day. It's understandable why he would break down, and I really like how they portrayed him in this episode, and last week's episode as well, as he's very much vulnerable. He wants to give up, but he also wants to give up because, one, he's had so much shit that's happened to him, he just wants peace, but also he sees, well, Rod Reese is a Titan now, let him eat me, have him stop all this brainwashing, just have him fix the world. It makes sense why he would give up, one, because of vulnerability, but two, that's the solution. He can't use that power. Everyone's telling him, from what he can see, the Founding Titan just can't be used by him to its full potential. Eren isn't the key to success. But I really like how his story is played, because his story is very much like, I don't care if I'm the enemy of the world, anyone who's trying to give up on themselves, she's going to fight for them. And I love that moment so much, and how they detailed just the destruction of the cave I thought was beautiful. I think this was actually one of the most beautifully directed episodes in the first half. We'll get to some issues with the visuals later, but in terms of how the cave was being presented, it was this very vibrant and almost like red and orange kind of tint that was being, you felt like there was this immense presence, right? As Rod was transforming, you felt like, holy hell, you kind of felt like you wanted to get blown back, with the characters themselves, because this was such a devastating force. And it was such a tense situation, and how they actually directed it was fantastic. Like, Rod in the cave actually looked pretty damn menacing and great. And how they actually kind of reveal, like, how Eren kind of came to the conclusion to try again. Because if we remember back in the first season, Levi said, it's up to you to make the choice. Do you trust in us and what we're going to do, or do you want to take actions into your own hands when Annie was chasing them? Eren decided to trust in Levi and the squad, and what ended up happening was Levi's squad got completely wiped out, past Levi as well as Eren. So this time, Eren says, I don't know if I can do anything, but he picks up that vial that says armor, because at worst, he's going to die. And if he dies, Rod will be able to shift back into a human, so really there's no reason for him to not attempt it. And when you see him transform and be able to finally use the armor ability, something that was desperately needed, he's been trying to use it, but he never had the ability until now because of the experiment in that bag that Historia brought up when she was freeing him. So how they actually detailed that entire scene was so beautifully done. Seeing Eren in crystallized Titan form, you're like, wow, there's actually a sense of hope for once in Attack on Titan. Eren might be able to plug up the wall, they might be able to get to the basement. It's such a great moment, and they detailed it so damn beautifully. But even though it was beautifully detailed, not everything about this episode was beautiful. Rod's Titan, it looked like ass a lot of the time. Now, back in Season 2, the way they did the Colossal, they did it in 3D, and I wasn't a huge fan or hater of it. I thought it was fine, it was acceptable. Rod's Titan, yeah, it doesn't look great that often, and based on the preview, it looks like we're still gonna have some CG. And I'm not against CG, if you look at how Levi was going through the streets earlier in the season, that was mostly 3D. However, it definitely feels like it was something that had less time to be refined than other scenes. But because Rod, even though he is a big part of it, in this episode, I think they detailed him in the proper way, kind of covering him up in smoke and kind of making him feel menacing in the cave, but once he got out, it lost its touch. It felt off-putting. You could definitely tell it didn't belong in the scenes with all the other 2D objects. However, though the Titan of Rod wasn't the best, how they detailed his destruction was fantastic. You felt like this is the most insane abnormal Titan we've seen. There's just giant holes all across the land, that actually felt pretty menacing. So that is a little bit of an issue for me, but it's not a huge deal. Honestly, even though Rod's Titan's didn't look the best in the second half of the episode and probably won't look that great come next week, it's not the biggest end of the world thing. Hopefully he'll be gone and we won't have to see too much more of him. But still, something that had to be mentioned. But his story in this episode, I think people are definitely, I'm noticing a lot of anime original fans really latching onto Historia, and for good reason. This is around the point where I started to be like, okay, Historia might be best girl in this series. You know, Historia is someone who's been dragged along all her life, having to run away from who she is, and even though she's being forced to have this queen role on her, she's saying like, you know what, I get to choose if it's forced on me, and she's willing to do it. But ultimately she wants to be a part of the mission to take down her father before she becomes queen. Not to mention having her kind of be the reason why Aaron's not getting eaten, because for all things considered, it would make the most sense to let someone of royal blood eat Aaron so they could reverse basically the founding titans in the last king's will there, but we don't know. Would Rod be able to transform back into human? Would Rod actually do things for the good reason? The way she actually was able to convince everyone to not kill Aaron in that situation, sure, maybe in the future they have to, but it makes more sense for him to stay alive, but also the reason why they were willing to sacrifice Aaron in that moment, or at least start to consider, it makes a whole lot of sense. Like, everything about this episode, past maybe some of the CGI visuals, I think was incredibly well directed. I think that cave scene, like, honestly, I would take bad CGI outside of the cave for how beautiful the actual cave situation was directed. It was so damn good, it was mesmerizing. The colors, the lighting, just the way the smoke and kind of like oncoming negative presence of Rod's Titan was just so damn great. Everything about it was fantastic. Honestly, this was just one of the most powerful episodes of the season, I would say. Aaron's kind of will to kind of give up, but then also to survive and also take things into his own hands, it makes a whole lot of sense, honestly. I really like this episode overall. I think overall Attack on Titan Season 3 has been killer. Historia is great. I can't wait to see how they're going to handle Rod's Titan and how they're going to deal with it in the anime. It's going to be so great, but let me know what you're feeling down in that comment section below. Did you love the episode? Did you hate it? Your favorite moment? Whatever you're feeling, let me know down in that comment section. And be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also be sure to subscribe to the channel if you happen to be new. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.